Hi, good evening. I'm Apurva Paigude. Today I'm going to talk on about the technical topic, that is body cavity. What is the body cavity? It is an hollow space or the compartment of or potential space in the body which is accommodated with the organs and other structures. Cavities potential space contain fluids. There are two largest human bodies cavity, that is a dorsal cavity and the ventral body cavity. Dorsal cavity means the brain and the spinal cords are located. So the membranes the surround with the central nervous system organ, that is the brain and the spinal cord, carnial and the spinal cavities. These are the three meningitis. The differently lined space contain different fluid. For example, the fluid is the CSF, cerebrospinal fluid, abdominal cavity, and the peritoneum fluid, that is amniotic, and some invertebrates. The invertebrates are the largest cavity, called the colonium. So in human body cavity, dorsal means the posterior cavity and the ventral means the anterior cavity, which is the largest body compartments. So dorsal body cavity includes carnival cavity, enclosed by the skull and contain the brain, and the spinal cord enclosed by the spine, that is the spinal cord. So the ventral body cavity, it is includes thoracic cavity, rib cage, lungs, heart, and abdominopelvic cavity. Uh, this contains in the uh, ventricle body cavity. So ventricle body cavity, it is cavity that has two main subdivisions, that is thoracic cavity and abdominal pelvic cavity. The thoracic cavity is the more what we say, that the superior subdivision of the ventricle cavities, and enclosed to rib cage. The thoracic cavity contain the lungs surrounds the pleural cavity, and the heart surrounded by the pericardial cavity located in the midstreams. The diaphragm forms the floor of the thoracic cavity, and separate it from more inferior abdominal pelvic cavity. So in abdominal cavity, the largest cavity is the body occurring to the entire lower half of trunk. So although the physically divides the abdominal cavity, it can also be useful in the distinguish between the abdominal cavity, pelvic cavity. So it means that abdominal cavity occupies the entire lower half of the trunk and entire to the spine, and the pelvic cavity is the funnel shape and located inferior and the anterior to the abdominal cavity. Now to the dorsal cavity contains the carnival cavity and the spinal cavity. So carnial cavity is the large and bean shaped cavity filling most of the upper skull, and the brain is located. So the spinal cavity is very narrow to the thread like cavity running from the carnival cavity uh, to the down entire length of the spinal cord. In the dorsal cavity, the carnival cavity is like brain is like a house. The spinal cavity encloses the spinal cord just as brain and spinal cord makes a continuous uninterrupted structure, and the carnival and the spinal cavity that continues with them. The brain and the spinal cords are protected by the bones of the skulls and the vertebral column, and by the cerebrospinal fluid, with the cushions of the brain and the spinal cord within the dorsal body cavity. These are the body cavities of ventricles and the dorsal cavity.